Hey, what's up everyone? Just wanted to give you my review of the 2014 ZX6R or 636 as it's also been branded. I think they changed this model in 2013 to make it a little bit more road friendly. Increase the capacity on the tank from 600 to 636, and it is definitely more road friendly, that's for sure. And I was going to do this review outside, but in typical UK fashion, the weather is absolutely pants out there. So hence why it's going to be in the garage. So I do apologise if I can't get good shots and all that kind of thing every now and then to show you the things I'm trying to talk about. So I wanted to split this review up just a little bit. I wanted to mention number one, how I ended up on deciding to buy this particular bike. Number two, the extra things that have been put on it that make it not completely stock. No performance upgrades, just enhancements more than anything else. And then finally, how I find this bike on the road and track. I've had it for 18 months now, so I figure it's time for me to give something back. Before I bought this bike, I did a lot of reviews, a lot of checking. So I feel this is my way of, kind of paying back the favor, as it were. So how did I end up deciding to buy this particular bike? Well, I used to have a 2007 Z1000, and it was a great bike for the road. Used to ride it everywhere, motorway, A roads, no problems at all. Could ride it all day long. It wasn't a problem. What I found though was that when I started riding on track a lot more, even though the bike was good, it just wasn't as good as a super sport. It just didn't have the right feel. So hence why I decided to go for something different. Now, before you spend a lot of money on something, you always review it, you always check it out. Particularly with cars and bikes, you're always going to test drive as much as you can, which is exactly what I did with this one. I test rode a lot of bikes both on the road and on the track. On the road, I took out the new Panigale, the S1000, the GSXR R6. On the track, I tried S1000, GSXR R6. Didn't get to try Panigale on the track, unfortunately, but that might have been for the best anyway. Um, just to give you a very very quick overview of the Panigale, because everybody loves that bike. It's an amazing looking bike. It really is absolutely beautiful. But when I took it out for a test ride, I like to put bikes through their paces a little bit. And what I found was a few things. So I found the gears just not forgiving. You had to be in the right gear at exactly the right time, or it really let you know about it. I found the clutch very heavy. I found the foot pegs very slippery. The bike's very loud, which I know is a Ducati characteristic. Don't flame me for it, but the bike was just too loud for me. It'd be great for a couple of days, but other than that, I think it would just drive me bonkers, especially with all the riding I do. And the other thing I found with it as well is that for some reason, when I was riding it, I felt a lot of hot air coming out of the exhaust into places that I didn't really think I should be feeling it. And when you're spending £14,000 on a bike, you want it to be perfect, and I didn't feel it was. So that's why I didn't go for the Ducati in the end. And the R6, GSX-R, S1000, they all had their own little foibles as well, which I won't go into here. But needless to say, this is the bike I ended up deciding on getting, and I'm really glad I did. I've ridden this now road, track. If you look in my channel, you'll see a few videos from on the track, um, and it's been absolutely fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The things that I've put on the bike that are not standard, which may influence my review, so I feel I should probably mention them. Like I said, there's no performance enhancements on the bike. That's the first thing to mention. So if we go this way, you can see, it's got shorter levers than the standard ones. It's got the steering damper put on it. One thing about the steering damper from Kawasaki that I learned the hard way, well, not the hard way, but I learned, was that when you get a steering damper from Kawasaki, it doesn't matter which way you dial it, up or down. It pretty much makes no difference whatsoever. It's almost there just for the bling factor. I actually had to take it to an Öhlins guy, pay him 50 quid to revalve it. So now when you turn it up, you can't turn the bars very easily, which is exactly what a steering damper is meant to do. And when I quizzed Kawasaki on it, they said, well, we have to sell them that way because, some idiot might turn it up all the way and crash in a car park and blame us. So if you do get a steering damper put on from the factory, you may just want to check it, dial it up, dial it down, and just make sure that, you are getting what you paid for, and if not, you may want to ask them, A, can they do it, and B, if not, who will do it without voiding any type of warranty. Anyway, so steering damper got put on there, got some crash protection put on. You can see on the tank there, it's got the tank slider. Put some stomp grips on as well, just for some extra grip riding around the track. You can see there's some crash bungs on the side as well, which have already come in very handy, which I'll go into in a minute. I don't know if you can see it very well here, but there's engine casing on there as well. rear sets just here. If you're like me and had never tried rear sets before, wow, if you can afford it, give it a go. They're amazing. They make such a difference, ridiculously different. I didn't realize. I mean, this bike was already comfortable for me before I got the rear sets, but just being able to move the pegs, whenever you need to, up, down, it just makes such a difference in comfort, especially if you got longer legs. So, if you get the chance, it's definitely worth the investment. You can see here as well, I've also got the slip-on Apropovic. It's only a slip-on, it's not a full system or anything. If you look in the back here, you can see it's still got all the standard stuff inside an exhaust. It's not cleaned out or anything. Tyre-wise, I've got Dunlop Sport Smart 2s on there now, I think. They come with Bridgestone S20s, which are meant to be a hyper-sport tyre and absolutely amazing. I won't lie to you, I did not get on with them at all. After I bought this bike, really soon after, I got the suspension just tuned for me and took it to Brands Hatch. I made sure all the tyre pressures were correct, and I was still getting weird tears in the tyre, which I've never had before. The tyre, I just did not get on with it. It just did not fill me with confidence. And I was chatting to the tyre guys there, and they told me a rumour. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, so this isn't gospel, but they said that, the S20 that you get on a brand new bike may not be the same S20 that you get from the factory. Apparently you might get some kind of substandard S20 on there. Which probably saves people a bit of money, I guess, and when you're doing, thousands of models of bikes, it all adds up. Like I say, that's just a rumour. I don't know if it's true, but certainly my experience of the S20 that came on this bike was not good. The Sport Smart 2, however, brilliant. Can't fault it. I've ridden around the track on it, I've ridden around the road on it, and, well, they're better than me, let's just put it that way. So for now, I'll just stick with the Dunlops on there, I think. When I go on track, I never use tyre warmers just because I want to ride to the track and I want to ride home from the track. And these tyres have been fine. A couple of laps warm the tyres and then they're absolutely brilliant. You see their tail tidy as well. Just to clean up the rear end a bit. Who doesn't like a nice tidy rear end? Don't worry about the green on there. I know that is not standard. The only reason that is on there is because I low-sided at Silverstone a couple of weeks ago. And had to replace a lot of the rear fairing and some of the crash protection. So the crash protection that I've put on the bike, like that tank slider there, that crash bung there. Well, that crash bung's been replaced now. I'll show you the old one in a minute. It all did its job brilliantly. And if you are buying a bike and it hasn't got crash protection, get it put on because it makes such a difference. I'm going to show you so that's the new crash bung there. That's the old one. So you can see it took a real hit, slide it out quite a bit as well. But all that saved my fairing, saved my engine. On the engine casing, I don't know if you can see it down here. There's a few little scratches, but nothing crazy. All that did its job. I'd hate to think, what such a low speed crash would have done had I not had the crash protection on. As it stands, it cost me, I think, about 300 quid to replace everything, which was that tail fairing there, the crash protection, and the seat cowl on the back. So I got all those parts off eBay, quite cheap. I mean, that rear tail fairing was about 20 quid, I think, not much at all. You can see the old one here. It's snapped. Where did it snap? Snapped there. You can see it's still got the tail slider on it, which has been absolutely, it took a bit of damage, but did its job. You may say, well, it snapped the fairing, but just underneath the fairing there, that's where all the wiring and stuff is, with plastic connectors. So one of the plastic connectors is slightly snapped, but the rest of them are fine. So I think that tail fairing probably saved the connectors a little bit. So the moral of the story there is that, the crash protection, okay, it might cost you 300 quid to put it on, and that's everything, but geez, I reckon it will save you more than that in the event that you ever do crash. And it's always sod's law, isn't it? If you put it on, you don't need it. If you haven't put it on, you need it. So my view was, you know what, I'm spending all this money on a bike, let's put the crash protection on, and that way it's there. So anyway, so that's how I ended up with the bike, and that's all the stuff that's been put on the bike. So as you can see, it's nothing performance enhancing. It really is just, cosmetic stuff and crash protection stuff and safety stuff. So the actual review of this bike, what I would say is that if you were moving up from a 250 or a 300 and you wanted a 600, this is the bike for you. And the reason I say that, it is so forgiving. I mean, let's face it, right? I think the bike looks nice. It looks aggressive. It looks mean. But looks can be deceiving because the bike, even though it looks like that, it looks like a hooligan bike a little bit. I think it is so forgiving that, if you're a new rider or a newish rider, or you want to go up to a bigger bike, then, look no further. I think the Ducati is very unforgiving. The BMW S1000, you'll get yourself killed because it's just got so much power. The R6, I didn't find it comfortable at all. And the GSX-R, I mean, yeah, arguably a GSX-R is probably quite a good first bike as well, but I just didn't think it had any character about it. But this bike's been great. So as a first bike, I think it would be good. Now I've been riding about 7 or 8 years, road riding, track riding, and this bike's way better than I am. That's for sure. So even if you're been riding quite a while, then this bike is still absolutely amazing. It's comfortable, does good mileage. I think I usually get about 10 miles a litre. So what's that, about maybe 170 miles to a tank? Obviously around the track I'll probably get half of that, as you'd expect, but what can you do? I can't remember if I mentioned it before, but if you want to see what it's like around the track, well, with me riding anyway, have a look at my channel and you'll see a couple of videos there that I took just to kind of let you get the feel of it and whatnot. Other than that, like I said, yeah, very comfortable. Mileage is good. Brakes are good. Clutch is very light. Very forgiving on gear changes. You can pull off in fourth gear and it's has a bit of a whinge about it, but it works. I've come out of corners on the track in fourth gear instead of second gear, and it's fine. Doesn't cause a problem. I think on other bikes, that would be a problem. I've done about, I'm trying to think, probably about 10,000 miles on this bike now. It's very difficult to ride in the UK because unless you like riding in the rain, and I feel I've done my time riding in the rain. I mean, I used to do it all the time and kind of feel like I don't need to do it anymore. Then you're not going to get your bike out too much around here, which is a bit of a shame. But I've managed to get 10,000 miles on it in 18 months, which is pretty good. I bought this bike from brand new, and the one thing I always worry about when buying a bike brand new is going to be A, how much am I going to lose on it, but B, I have to take it to Kawasaki to get it serviced because otherwise the warranty is void. And I thought, they'd kind of bend me over on the service costs. But every service so far has been 100 quid, 110 quid, nothing more than that. And that includes the oil changes and all that kind of thing. I have done my own oil change on it as well, which is simple enough. But thinking about it, there's no reason I can't just get Kawasaki to do it at the annual service. I know people say that every 3 or 4 track days you should change your oil, which is what I did for a while. But to be honest, I didn't notice any problems. I've left it for about 9 days now, and it's been fine. I think oil these days is that good that you don't really need to worry about it. But if you want to worry about it, you can. Like I say, I've done both and not really noticed a difference either way. And Kawasaki certainly haven't said, hey, change that oil more often because your engine's screwed. So yeah, so like I say, very forgiving bike, amazing little bike. Mine is certainly a positive review. I'm sure there's stuff that I haven't covered in this, but if you got any questions, just leave comments in the video. I'm not the best at replying to comments, but if I see any in there, I'll certainly reply to them. And yeah, so like I say, amazing bike. I'll probably be keeping this as long as I can. I have no compelling desire to change it or do something different with it. I'm quite happy to keep this for quite a while, and that's an honest review. I'm not being paid by Kawasaki to say that. I don't know if you've noticed in the background there is another bike over there. That's just a bike I'm minding for a mate. It's not like a second bike that I use instead of this one. This is my only form of motorcycling at the moment, as in road bike and track bike. So yeah, road track, perfect bike. Any questions? Leave them in the video. Now, I also realised I should probably just mention the negatives about this, because I've obviously given this a glowing review so far. So the negatives on this bike, any negatives on this bike are not because of the bike itself, but more the type of bike it is. And the only real negative that I have is that I can't ride this bike, or I don't feel I could ride this bike on a massively long road trip. The reason being is just because of the class of bike that it is. Now, I don't say that because my wrists get sore. I'm hoping now that the memory foam is in the seat, my bum won't get sore, and my shoulders don't get sore. But the bit of me that gets sore is my neck. The reason being is that because it's a super sport, you are hunched over, your helmet's facing down, you're trying to look up at the same time, and my neck does get sore on very, very long rides. But again, that isn't because of this bike. It's just the type of bike it is. It's the super sport. And unfortunately, if you're going to get a super sport, that's just something that you're going to have to live with, I think. So that's one negative. But other than that, I've been really thinking, what are the other negatives on this bike? And I can't think of any. you know, when I first bought it, I thought, oh, that fairing looks a bit, a bit cheapo, I guess. But having low-sided it, I'm glad it's cheap rather than costing like, £2,000 to replace fairing. So, like I say, I really have been trying to think of negatives for this bike, but the only one I can think of is just the comfort factor, and that is just, and that's on long journeys, and that's my neck, and only because of the type of bike it is, not because of this bike itself.